Stout. Okay. Good evening to the meeting of the Board of Appeals from Amerenik. This is our May meeting. Um, We have our members, we have a quorum here tonight. We have Brian Gittleson, Greta Haney, Robin Kramer. I'm Dave Newfelden here. We have our counsel, Rob Stout. And our procedures, for those of you who might not be familiar with it, is that we will we start with hearings that have been opened already. And we will have public hearings. We have 3 on that are carried forward, although one person is asking, there is one that will be adjourned. And then we have 1 new public hearing. Okay. After that, once the hearing is completed, the board will deliberate after the hearing is closed, usually the following meeting. At deliberations, those are not, public does not speak or participate in those. Okay. And so when we actually take the hearings, we just ask if everybody gets up and speaks, the applicant begins and just go through your application, any particular points you want. The board has your paperwork. And then if people want to speak, by all means do so, but please be concise, be to the point, so that we can just go on and don't repeat everything. We do tend to have a sense of what that's about. Now, there's one thing I want to just point out. We originally also had on for tonight 416 Waverly to discuss. The applicant, however, has indicated that they cannot all be here. And what we are going to do is then that will not go forward, because that requires them to all be here. And the board will be ascertaining in next week, picking a date for its special meeting when it may continue and deal with that matter. The other item is that the first matter on the agenda, which is number 04 AV 22, it's the application of 700 South Berry Avenue in Mamaroneck Beach and Yacht. They have written and asked for, they're not prepared tonight. They would like to go on to the June meeting. Generally, our practice, particularly where we don't have a full board, which we won't have that day either, to defer and allow those adjournments to take place. So unless any member has a particular reason, speak up now and let me know, but otherwise, we will put that matter over to June. Unless, Greta, you want that later, because you're not going to be here in June. That's up to you.
Well, I don't want to delay things. So what I may do is just, Dave, I'll send you some concerns that you can perhaps communicate and ask about
Fine.
in my absence.
Great, happy to do that. I don't think you can send me your right to vote, though. That I don't. Rob, you can give it to Robin, though. Robin votes twice. We'll go Robin Kramer, then we'll go Robin Kramer again. And then Brian will say, why can't I vote twice? Well, he gets 3 votes.
I'll just trust the 3 of you will make a reasonable and sound decision.
Oh, wait, Gwen, I don't think we're going to be making a decision.
We're
not making a decision.
Yeah, I think, so you probably will have the opportunity to hear what is discussed and then, participate when we vote. My guess is we may close the hearing, I would think, Dave.
Yeah,
but
it might very well, but that's right.
Okay.
Greta, you can then listen to it. And actually, Greta, you can also join in from wherever you are, because I know that's where your heart belongs. So
Yeah, unlikely that I will, but thank you for that.
well, if we could arrange for that. We could send you some systems down there. I don't know. Okay. The next matter is the second matter on the agenda that's carried, and that is 1304 Raleigh Road.
did they withdraw their application, Dave? There was something, did I misread that? Wasn't there something from
Yes.
them?
They've withdrawn.
Oh, they have withdrawn it? Okay. Yeah, I was planning to do this from another location this evening. And then I decided I could make a train and get home, which I took the train, and there were 2 trains on the track, one on each side. And yes, I went to the wrong track side and went to Rye and left my things in the city. So I'm pulling them up from the system as we speak. All right, so the number 2 is adjourned. I mean, is withdrawn. Okay. Yeah. And the next item is 243 Madison Avenue. That's application This was it. 06 AV 22. 243 Madison. We have anybody here on that application? Just to be a record, Brian.
No, she's got it.
Oh, she's coming, all right.
No?
This file I have.
Hello,
Good evening.
hello, do you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes.
Yes, we all can.
I'm sorry.
Could you identify yourself, please, for the record?
I am Arthur Yellen, architect for this project.
Arthur, do you need somebody else promoted? Is there someone else with you?
I believe one of the owners is on the Zoom,
Okay, do you know who?
Alicia Addo.
Okay. All right, you're all set.
Okay. Good evening. So we have the April 18th plans, I believe.
Sorry, I also have partners Lisa Luke and Tadsy Jones on the line as well. So that's all the partners of the LLC.
All right, well, why don't we just identify I believe there's several sets of plans. I just want to make sure. We are all working off the same set of plans. So if you could also identify the date of the last set. There's an April 18th set, I believe, of plans.
Those are the latest, yes.
Right. Do those, are the others still, do they supersede the others as well?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
Could you explain the difference between the current plans and the prior plans?
Basically, there were a couple of inaccuracies on the zoning chart, and they have been corrected. There's additional information on the zoning chart. That's basically all the changes that there are. Anything else is cosmetic. If you want me to review the zoning issues briefly, I can do that.
You could do that briefly. That's fine. I think so.
Okay, we're asking for a variance for FAR and floor area.
Mhm.
FAR allowed is 0.70. The total FAR, including a cellar, is 0.87. The floor area, the total floor area, if I take the top, there were 3 floors. Only here. And if I take the 2 living levels, the FAR is only 0.66. The lowest level contains entries and parking for 2 cars. The rest of the lower level is not unexcavated. This I sent in this arrangement of having 2 floors of living above an entry level, fairly typical in this R4F zone. I sent in a map, a tax map of 132 properties in this R4F area. 23% or 31 have this arrangement. So it's a fairly typical arrangement. It's very much in keeping with the neighborhood and the surrounding area. In fact, 3 buildings across the street, directly across the street, and 1 to the right and 1 to the left have the same arrangement. This proposal complies in terms of height, in terms of yards, and we tuck some parking under the building in order to preserve open space for landscaping, which is somewhat critical. Last time we spoke, we had to update our survey. And we have sent in an updated survey. You should have that. There was an issue of the FEMA BFE, that's the base flood elevation. The base flood elevation here is at 26. Our lowest level is at 28. So the building is slightly raised, but it should be, it's in keeping with safety measures for this site. So given our attempt to make this building modest, maximize the green permeable landscaping, we think the arrangement should be considered as acceptable.
And this is,
Now, I thought you were also asking for a variance on height from 2.5 to 3 stories.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay,
So the survey that I did, which indicates that 23% of the buildings in this area have that same 3-story arrangement.
right. Right, so also the last time when we were talking about the FAR, you had thought that the FAR that you would be going to was greater than 0.87.
Greater than what?
That it would be greater than 0.87.
No, that's total.
Okay,
That's the
so,
map. It could be, I have notes on the bottom of my zoning chart.
so you've been able to pin that down.
I'm sorry.
You've been able to pin that down. You were uncertain the last meeting.
A 0.87 is including all the areas, the garage and the entries at the lowest level and the entire top floors.
Now, you just said something about being more green with the property. I know that you have like a paved area for
Mhm.
cars in the back. Is that correct?
Yes, the intent is to make that permeable paving.
Thank you very much. That was going to be my next question. Okay.
I have a question about the cellar level. Now, is the cellar level below the design flood elevation?
No, we've raised the cellar. There's rock on site. There's quite a bit of rock. We're trying to avoid blasting.
So you don't need to, so in terms of flood proofing the house, there's nothing beneath the flood level.
No,
So you don't need to either make it impervious or pervious. You don't have to deal with any of that.
it's still a good idea not to try to collect water, have water collect any place.
Is this partly below grade? Does it meet the definition of cellar?
I didn't get that.
Yeah, that's,
Does the lowest level of the house, what you have been calling the cellar, by definition in the code, a cellar has to be partly below grade? And I understand, I'm just trying to understand here. Is your cellar partially below grade, or is it actually all above grade and you're just calling it a cellar because it has more like cellar uses in it?
It's not below grade.
So it's not technically a cellar.
okay, that's why you're counting it, right?
That's right.
Right.
Okay.
Are there any other, how does the height compare to the neighbors and the adjacent areas?
I believe the height is no higher than any neighbor. We have very modest ceiling heights. We've reduced the cellar to the parking space as 7 feet clear height and 8 feet heights in the 2 apartments above. So we're below the maximum allowed height for the building, above curb level. We're not, that's above the curb level, which is 23 feet. So we're below the allowed height.
But you have an extra story,
I'm sorry,
but you said 3 stories, correct?
3 stories, including the cellar. The total height is below that allowed.
But it's not really a cellar.
But David, there's 2 standards in our code. We have a height of foot and we
Right.
have a story, so you can,
Oh, you have stories or,
So we're looking to a variance for both, for the number of stories.
Yeah.
And for the total height, and we are below the allowed height.
so then you don't need a variance.
you
if
don't
you're
need a
below
variance.
the allowed
That's,
height.
that's what I'm not clear on. Yeah, exactly.
All right,
Right.
we need a variance for the FAR. If you include the lowest level, we need a variance for the FAR.
Yes, but question, the code is, and is it 35 feet? Didn't look,
The
double check it.
building height allowed is 2.5 stories per.
Is there a height limit as well?
The height limit we are okay with. We don't
And
need a
what is the
But
variance.
height?
what is the height limit?
35 feet, 35
Okay.
feet.
So you're under 35 feet, including the cellar, all of your building, since it's all above grade, is lower than 35 feet, but 3 stories instead of 2.5. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. I will say, I don't know if other board members saw this, but if you don't go there, you'll see that most of the other buildings on the block have garages on the ground floor, just like this building is proposed.
Oh, yeah.
Inside the building.
But on the ground floor, it's not like below grade, it's all the same.
That's right. That's exactly what we're doing here.
Right.
Of these surrounding properties where you say that 31 are 3-story, how many of them are pre-existing, non-conforming? And how many-
Pre-existing,
Yeah,
I don't know the years built, but they're recent, they're fairly recent. I don't have the year they were built. They're not old buildings.
There's some new ones, the one right across the street or right nearby this looks like a very new one.
so
Yeah,
did
to
that
the
get a
right.
variance? Did that get a variance? I mean, I guess my question is, of these 31, how many received variances for stories?
Researched whether they receive variances and the years built, that I don't know, but they're pretty new.
Right, and also Greta, the thing is, those other buildings, they just may have garage space under. This building has a little vestibule and some other things that add to the FAR, so that's one of the reasons why they're asking for the variance. In terms of, I guess, 3 stories, you would need also a variance.
That's on their list. That's Brian.
That's on their list. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, so,
So I guess in my mind, the fact that there are 31 properties that have 3 stories, that may or may not be relevant depending on whether they're pre-existing or not, you know?
But even if they were pre-existing, they set the character of the neighborhood. So if all the other buildings in the neighborhood
Okay.
have, or if a significant number of other buildings in the neighborhood have 3 stories, whether they have 3 stories because they pre-exist or not, they still have 3 stories. So that in considering the factors for a variance, that would say, well, that it is consistent with the other buildings. It is not inconsistent,
right,
whether or
so,
not they're grandfathered.
right, so the neighbor to the left, the neighbor to the right, and the neighbor across the street are all at that height.
I think these are relatively small properties. And I think there's an attempt to keep open space to reduce the footprint of the building and the footprint of paving. Make the movement efficient.
Is there anyone else who wants to speak on this or has any questions? Any board members have anything further?
No, one of the things that we had been wanting to know was the elevation of the property, which also sets, you know, a reason for why you would have a garage above grade. And the applicant has shown it. And, you know, I think he's answered the other questions as well.
All right. We want to close this hearing? Is there a motion on the closure?
I'll move to close it.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Brian. To close, on the vote on close, Brian?
Yes, yes.
Ivan?
Yes.
Greta?
Okay, yes.
Okay, that hearing will be closed. Just 1 second. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hearing is closed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a technical.
you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Have a good evening and a good week. I have a technical question. On Winfield. The system, online system is not letting me access documents on that. Is anyone else experiencing that?
We have the, oh, you didn't get, you don't.
I'm on it now. I'm on it.
You can open the documents though?
Yeah. Let me see if I could.
I just tried it and what I got was unlike the others, because I've been able to do it with the others. Yeah, the
I
others.
can't either right now, Dave.
Yeah, it's just that one. Because at first I thought it was me and I tried the few of the others, but I can open everything but that one.
All right, I will play around with it and get this to open.
Okay, thank you. It's like when I go to it, it's hold on. You go to Winfield. And it says the applicant seeks an area variance to modify existing foundation, remove existing, renovate house, and then, but nothing below that.
Okay, I'll look into
Is that,
it.
you're having the same thing, Rob? That your experience?
I
Yes,
have the
I'm
hard
experiencing
copy.
the
I
same
haven't been looking,
Okay.
so I'll go
right.
try now, since you're all
right.
having, tell the truth, I have trouble.
Yeah. All right, is the applicant here?
Yes.
Okay, why don't you come on?
Whoever, can you raise your hand? I have a couple of similar names. Okay.
Huh. I can't get it either.
Yeah, good. And I know I have the hard copy. Let's see if I have another copy here.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, 1 second. Let's just take-
I lost my link to AKRF. Is it available there? Brittany?
All right. All right, well, we can work on that while we're doing this.
Dave, I think it should work now. Do you want to try it one more
Oh,
time?
sure, thank you. I will. You did magic with it, huh?
Kind of tried.
Oh, that's good. That's-
I have it.
Here goes.
Works.
No, I'm not getting it. No,
Weird.
Brian. I open the agenda. This is what I always do. I go to that one. Let me Yeah, it works on
It
that.
does public. I don't, it says it's public and everyone can, on my end at least,
I was able to, well, I downloaded it. I didn't use the online, and it opens just fine.
So you went through the download on the zoning?
Yep, and it opens just fine.
Okay,
I didn't try the other one.
okay. Or do you go through,
Richard, did you need me to promote the homeowner as well, or is it just you?
You might want to promote Liza.
Okay.
Can you hear me all right?
Yep, I can hear you. I will promote her now.
actually, I'm not even. Robin, you were.
Takes a
able-
while to download. It's a, it's a big. big-
Okay, Robin, very well done. Thank you. It took a while and I just did it. So now.
Yeah,
I
I
have
mean,
it.
I can't open the online one either, but the download worked fine.
Would you like me to share my screen and to show the documents, or you have enough?
Yeah, I was gonna suggest that would.
Yeah, that might be a good
helpful as
idea. I
well.
think that would be a good idea.
Should work now. I checked it from the public view and it is there, so.
Oh, it is working now? Let's try that.
I just tried, Brittany, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it from the online agenda either.
Yeah, I resaved it. and
I mean,
resent
the
everything.
not the download one, the
No,
other one.
couldn't do it either. No, I had to go through the way you did it, Robin.
No, that worked, so.
Yeah, no, that did. Yeah. All right, so we have the downloaded one open here. Let me just make sure I've got it. The application number on this is, no, that's not the one. Okay, we've got it. Okay, yeah, working off the, Robin, that works. That what you suggested does work. Okay, no, this is, maybe it doesn't. Hold on. All right, I'm not gonna hold this up. Let me just try one more time and see if I can get, because it just gave me the wrong one. It's got 243 again. And it's giving me error messages now. That's interesting.
On the download, because I have it sitting open, downloaded.
Yeah, I'm just redoing the opening. It says open once it's done. All right, so why don't we go ahead? Wait, you're gonna share the screen? That should be fine.
All right.
Okay, why don't you proceed with your application then, okay? And I will.
I just want to go through this. We are basically, I think there's a discrepancy between the description that's in the application, and the description that was in the letter declaration. We are not looking for a variance of the foundation or of a second floor. We only have a first floor. The flood level is not considered a floor. So we're only looking at the first floor, which is above that flood level. I'm not really sure what we're looking for a variance of. It's called an area variance.
Right.
It seems that there's something about the application of Article 34265. That article of the zoning ordinance says that if you're not changing the non-conformance, which we're not, the only part of this that's non-conforming is the side yards. We're not increasing or decreasing the side yards. We're keeping them both the same. Yet, for some reason, we're being sent to you to get a variance on this south wall above the garage, somehow related to this setback.
Your application said, just because I looked, said that the required lesser side is 6 feet, proposed 4.5, but you also say that you have an existing side yard of 4.5 feet. So are you changing the side yard? Are you decreasing the side yard, or are you not decreasing the side yard?
No, we're not decreasing. The proposal was not to increase or decrease the side yard, to keep it the same.
And are
You're
you
not raising it up and high, you're not going higher?
It's already raised.
Right.
Look, I think what's going on here is they're adding bulk into the non-conformity because the house has already been raised. And of course, you're not going to raise a garage. So they're making living space above the garage,
That is correct, Brian.
which I guess is new FAR. And then on the other side of the house, there's kind of an indent of the house, which they want to push it out to the foundation. It's, you know, I think it's 2 feet. Am I correct? I'm asking the applicant. Aren't you squaring out the house in the back a couple of feet on one of the side yards?
No,
But they were putting something there that there isn't there now.
But
can I address this?
Yes.
Okay. There's an addition proposed on the back.
who is this?
It's set back because since that's new, we have to set that back to the new side yard. So the existing side yard is still the same for the pre-existing house, which we raised to clear the flood zone. But now, when we are proposing the addition in the back, that has to be set back the current side yard setback. That we understood that was part of the application kind of at the beginning of this. This, this on the south wall above the garage came up just, really right as we were getting approved by the BAR, that now we had to go for a variance on this south wall as well. I don't know why, but we didn't set it back because it's not new construction. We basically used the whole house
I'm
to
up.
clear the whole footprint came up. And the only place where we knew we had to set this back was on in the back rear for the dining room addition. That's why it's set back. It's not squaring it off. It's actually set back 1.5 feet. So that is 6 feet from the side yard.
Richard, it would be very helpful if you pulled up the plans.
Yeah.
And if you actually showed us with the pointer on the plans what the addition is.
Yes,
Good evening, everyone. This is Dennis Drogan. So what Richard is trying to explain is that the rear addition right now, but maybe we can leave the rear addition out of it because it has nothing to do with the application at hand. They need an area variance for the two sides of the structure, the right and the left. They're increasing the volume of the home in the non-conformity. And then in the front of the structure, the open area garage, we'll call it, is also being extended further towards the road, also outside of the setbacks. So those are the two things in question, the right and the left side of the house, increasing the volume of the structure, and the front of the garage. So the garage will still remain. I believe there's a door proposed on it now instead of it being opened. And the area above the garage will turn into an additional bedroom, just so there's some clarity.
So the area above the garage is new floor area, correct?
Yes,
Okay, and the area in the back is also new floor area, correct?
here. See this? Can you see my cursor?
yes,
Yes.
Okay, so this is true additional area.
okay, so, and where's the side yard now?
Right now, the side yard is here. That's the original building, and that's the existing setback point. Now here, this wall is set back to the current setback. So the 6 foot setback is to here.
So then so the new floor area in the back is all conforming in terms of side yard. It's not it's 6 feet, not 4.5 feet, but your total side, your combined side yard is less, including for that piece. So while the new setback may be 6 feet, the combined side yard setback is still less than the required combined side yard setback, correct?
I'm not sure how to answer that question because you see this wall
What's
is the existing wall. It's the same wall now, and it's still at the same side yard setback. There's no difference.
Chair Board, Richard, if you don't mind, I'm sorry, just to speed it up a little bit more to help you out. Why don't you bring up the survey and show the setbacks in the survey instead of the plan that's not indicating clearly what the setbacks are to make it very simple and visible for the board and everyone else that's attending the meeting.
First of all, I'm going to show you the original survey. And this shows this as garage. These two side yards, these are non-conforming side yards. And now the new survey, same thing. These are the existing side yards. I'm going to make it a little larger so you can see this.
Okay,
So here on the north side, we have 4.5 foot setback. Here on the south side, we have two different dimensions here. Let's call the smallest one is 3'9" as a setback. We're not changing them. They're staying the same. The only difference now is in this area in the back, where we're adding that addition, that is set back 6 feet from that side yard.
All right, so that's the area, that's the new area that requires the variance, correct?
So now, we don't need a variance there because we're complying with the 6-foot setback.
What's
But
your
you have-
combined, what's your combined setback?
The combined will still be less than the 14 feet.
That's the problem.
That's the reason you do need a variance. In other words, you got your 6 foot there, but you're on the other side. So what is your combined back there?
Well, let's go to that plan again. Now, where we had the,
Yeah, well, let's just try to stay on this because I think
We had the-
Mr. Kramer had this right before. You're going back there and you've got a 6 foot on that side. On the other side, are you changing that at all?
no. That's the thing that I don't understand. We're not
Okay, but if
changing-
you go to the very beginning of the 6 foot where you can you expand that a little bit?
Expand this
Yeah,
drawing? Is that what you mean? When you say expanded, you want to look closer?
larger, yeah. Yeah, just a little larger. I'm trying to see that footage there. What's that, 4.5? What is that? There you go. Bring it down now. Just, okay. So what is that? That's 4 point, is that 4.5
Yes.
or 4 foot 5 inches?
4.5 feet.
4.5 feet. Okay. Now, if you go right across now and you travel south, I guess, right? And
On
you
the
go
other,
the other property, there's now, how much is your side yard there? Directly,
feet. The non-conforming yards on the side, the south non-conforming side yard is 4 feet. The north non-conforming side yard is 4.5 feet.
okay, but nothing has been built there before.
Built there before. What do you mean by that?
There's nothing where you're extending it there. Is that new?
You were extending it in the back?
Yes.
There's a deck there.
I'm sorry?
There has been a deck there that was originally built. And we're adding this addition onto where that deck.
Use your cursor if you would, so we can all see it. Okay, so you're adding that area there in which you're in, right?
But we're setting that back 6 feet.
I understand. Now, so that you're going 6 feet on that one side, right near your cursor, correct? North is to the left, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, and if you go to the other side and you go south from where you are,
Right,
okay,
right along.
no, stop there. Okay, that exists now?
Yes.
Okay,
Right, this is the existing survey. He needs to go to the plan to
yeah, you
show
need
us.
to go to the plan. You're right. No, you're right.
Well, excuse me, Chair, Board, this is, what we're looking at is not the existing plan, not the existing survey, but the proposed survey. The original one that was shaded, we'll say the darker one is what is the existing survey. So on the one we were just looking at, there's already an increase in the non-conformity forward on the right-hand side of the house where they're making the garage deeper. So just so you know, so if we go back to the original survey,
Yeah, but stop right there. If you have the one in front of you, you're saying addition to the first floor, correct?
Right,
So on the one side, that doesn't need a variance, correct? On the northerly side?
Correct.
Right, but on the southerly side, you have that existing deck, it says, right?
correct.
And you're extending the deck, right?
Right,
And that's gonna be what, 8 feet there?
right.
So you've got the 8, and the other one is what, 4? You don't have the other one dimension here.
The other one, what? You mean on the north side of that addition?
Yes,
Okay, look above that word addition, you say 6-foot yard setback?
Yes, I do. I see that. All right, so
Oh,
that's, so you've got
this is-
6, and
Yeah.
what is the combined?
14.
Robin, what do you think?
So the
Sorry,
new
yeah.
work, the new work is addition and the extension of the deck. Both of
Right.
those are complying with the current setbacks. And
So
total,
they're putting more floor area in the non-conforming combined side yard setback. I think
Well,
that's
Where are they doing that? I'm not
in the
sure.
back, in
Above
the back.
the garage.
You know, look, so right now, they have a non-conforming, the side yard setback, at least according to theirs, the combined side yard setback is supposed to be 14.5 feet. They only have 4.5 plus 4, so 8.5 feet. That's what they've got. So
Right.
there's like, the difference between 14 or 14.5 and 8.5 is the non-complying combined side yard. So that's existing, that's fine. So that exists, they're fine.
Yeah,
They
but
also have non-compliant individual side yards, which are supposed to be a minimum of 6 feet. And they've got 4.5 on one side and 4 feet on the other side. Okay, so now they're putting more floor area in the rear of the house, which
But
is
they're- but that's six-
complying with a 6-foot side
Right.
yard setback. However, if
Okay.
it were to, in order for it to be a complying, it would have to be, we'd have to have, since there's 4.5 on the other, it would have to be 10 feet to make,
no, but there's more. Oh, wait a minute.
it would
but-
have to be 10 feet set back from the side lot line in order to comply with the requirements for the combined side yard. The combined side yard, so the side yard that is supposed to exist on the two sides of the house are 14 or 14.5 feet.
Right.
They do not do that. Instead, this floor area that they're putting is in the area that should be set back to meet the 14 or 14.5 feet. So they need a variance.
So I'm not,
from the
yeah, but Robin,
combined-
take a look at this. Yeah, and I understand what you're saying. But if you take a look at it, you've got 8 feet on the one side, right?
And
No,
6
you
on
got
the
4
other.
feet on one side.
What?
There's 4 feet.
No,
No, I don't see
It
that.
says 4 feet non-conforming side
Oh,
yard right there.
Where's that?
well, yes, where.
But not
where
where,
the
not
current
where we are,
structure
not,
is.
but go to where they want to put
I'm
the.
looking at the survey. I'm looking at the survey, not the site plan, and the survey shows 5 yards for the whole distance.
Brian, you see what I'm saying? Except for that little notch area, you're basically, it says here,
So what
you're 8
they're,
feet.
yeah, the addition.
Yeah.
That they're putting on is 6 feet from the lot line. And on the other side of it, where the existing deck is 8 feet from the lot
Right.
line. So at that section of the house, they're.
Oh, I see. You're saying over
14
there.
Yeah,
No,
14 to
because if you look at the beginning of,
I know.
if you look at the
A little
first
notch.
like foot or 2 feet of what
Yeah.
they're putting
Right.
on,
It's right.
it's right, it's where there's a 4-foot non-conforming side yard, not where there's an 8-foot area. So for
Yeah, so you're
some
talking
distance,
about, right, you're talking about for about a foot or so. For
maybe
that one.
2 feet, I don't know what the dimensions are, because we don't have enough all the details here, but yes, whatever that
I
small
agree with
area.
you. I agree. Technically,
Yeah,
technically speaking, it's that little strip, that little notch.
Right,
Yeah,
that's
there's-
what I'm saying.
I agree.
yeah, there's a sliver there.
That's
Yeah, it's not a
sliver,
big part, but it is technically, it's non-compliant.
right.
And
Right.
then on the, right, and on the other, so on the first side where there was a garage, so if the garage counted as floor area, then they're putting this above the garage, right? Or whether it did or did not, this is going above the garage. Richard, the new floor area is it addition to the first floor? Is it a second floor? I realize it's not a second floor because it's not at it's above the design flood elevation, but I'm just calling it a second floor in terms of it's going above the garage, correct?
It's above the garage, everything, that's right, the whole thing.
Yes, it's above the garage. So that is new floor area in both the non-complying side yard and in the non-complying combined side yard.
Well, you see, let's say it wasn't a garage. Or let's say we could put the garage on that what you're calling a
It's a,
second.
the board considers that since you're putting more floor area in the non-complying area, you need a variance.
Right, yes. You're gonna
Yeah, but
need a
this-
variance because you're adding volume there, you're going up.
Zoning, you see, the zoning ordinance doesn't say that. The
Yeah.
zoning ordinance, 642.65 simply says, if you are not increasing the nonconformance,
We view that as increasing the non-conformance because it's adding mass to the non-conformance. So for example, if somebody had a variance for the first floor, now you add a second floor in that same area, it's not going to be a greater impact in terms of a greater area that's intruded upon on the ground level, but it is putting mass in the same area that you can't build in.
I would understand that if, let's say, we were increasing the height and we were going
Well,
over.
aren't you increasing the height here?
Well, we're increasing the height, but now we're nowhere near the height limit.
No, but you can't build there. In other words, if there were, but for the non-conforming aspect, all right, well, I won't argue, but for the non-conforming aspect, I mean, that's why you're here for a variance, right? So you're basically you're going up a floor in an area you can't build in, but for the variance. And the non-conforming aspect has nothing to do because there is no non-conforming second floor now. I'm making sense, Robin? Yeah. The board went back and forth on that years ago as to whether that required a variance. And the decision made years ago was, yes, it does, because if your neighbor's going to do something that's going to be 2 feet high, you go, well, okay, fine, he can have the variance for the width for the going to the side yard, but now he's going to go up 30 feet or 10 feet. So wait a minute, whoa, that's very different from a visual perspective, from a mass perspective. So in other words, you are changing it, you're increasing it because the area above that first story could not be built upon without encroaching upon and requiring the variance, but that's why
And-
you're
And we do multiple of these. We do these, I can't say all the time, but there are frequent applications just like this, where someone has a non-compliant condition and they want to make it, put a second floor above, or make it a little bit bigger, or put it in front of, or something else.
Now, if you were to notch in the second floor so that it met the area variance up there, then that's a different thing.
You mean set it,
I'm not suggesting do that.
well, by that you mean set the first floor, that south wall. You're saying if we were to set that back. Is that what you mean? For instance, the same way.
You're
that we said-
you're building above the first story, correct? And what you're proposing to do is to build above the first floor in an area, within an area that does not meet the side yard, okay? And you're saying, I don't have to because my first floor is non-conforming in there. And I hear what you're saying, but that's not been the position of the board for many, many years.
I'm just, I did this because when I
Okay.
read the article of the zoning ordinance.
Yeah.
That's what it tells me. Just go straight up.
Okay, well,
So
so you're just saying that, no, wait, it's not quite that. What you're saying is that doesn't change my non-conforming nature. And we're saying it does. That's all. So we've read the same section. We're saying it does increase the non-conformity because of the mass and the location. It's not to say you can't get it, or you can get it, but it's okay. Anything else you want to show us on this, or any other questions?
well, first of all, is there anything else that you would like to know about this proposal?
I have a question. Your neighbor to the closer to the water, you are really, really close to them. I realize that house is now currently it looks uninhabited. It looks like it still hasn't been rebuilt.
All three of these are uninhabited. All three of them closest to the river have been vacated.
Yeah, no.
People-
I understand that it's not a problem. My question is, have you spoken to them since this is going to be even if it's not increasing the side yard, have you spoken to your neighbor? Is your neighbor, somewhere you can discuss this with them? Do they know about it?
Yes. Yeah, in fact, I'm working on a project, the same similar project in all three of these houses. Because they all are trying to raise their houses to avoid the flood zone.
Right.
Their houses, they were devastated by this.
Yeah, it looks awful. It looks like it was, yeah, awful.
I've been racing and trying to work so hard on this to get this for them so we can get them back into the house.
And my second question is again, about the flood zone issue. So your garage level, so I assume your first floor, what your one floor now, the main floor is, the garage is being built. So I assume that the design flood elevation is above the garage is below. So I noticed in the plans you had discussions of how many openings you need in that level and various other things, right? That's in the flood zone, correct? That's under the flood level.
Oh, yes,
And that floor above it is above the flood level.
correct.
Okay,
That's what's-
just wanted to make sure, that's what I thought, but I wanted to make sure. Okay,
Okay.
That's what this is all about. That's why we're raising it to
right.
this floodway, this flood zone. So all the water can flow through. That's the whole objective of this.
So in order for us to consider a variance and to give a variance, we have to know what variance is being asked for. Obviously, when you came today, you didn't think that you needed one. But one of the ones that Robin was talking about was with the new addition, there's what I call that sliver. We're going to need the, I guess we're going to need the dimensions of that, correct, Robin?
Wait,
The dimensions of
of what? That sliver there?
Yeah, of the sliver where you've got a 4 foot on one side of the house and 6 foot on the other.
or alternatively, we could just set whatever it is, if we say
Yeah.
to the whole distance.
Match the
But
plan.
you're right, Brian, we do technically need that dimension.
Well,
I'm not sure.
I'm just trying to determine what variances we
Yeah,
need.
yeah. No,
Well,
you're
you
right,
need
you're
that- You
right.
need that one for the sliver, and then you need the other one for the other side where they're going above,
Right.
right? Robin, you got anything else? I mean, not, those are the two we need?
Yeah,
And do we know the dimensions on the other one? Yeah, I guess we do, right?
yeah, the other one we know because that's on the plan that they've got.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Richard, do you know what we mean by the sliver?
You're talking about on the north side?
We're talking about the section of the dining room.
This area-
Go back to the other picture. that-
Yeah, no. Richard is there. So that's
No.
really the sliver.
Where?
That dimension is right here.
No.
Are you
Right.
at-
Well, how much of the 11 feet 3 inches overlaps with the section of the house that only has a 4 foot setback, on the right side of the house?
I'm sure- Hold on a second. I'm not trying to understand that question. I can tell you that this is a difference of 1'6". This sliver is 1'6" in from the existing
Okay.
side.
Then you answered the question. That's it. It's 1'6" by
3.
Yeah, but what you really need is you need the could you have the dimension from the side yard? You've got
That's
here,
this.
oh, 6 foot, less the 1.5, right? Less the width.
So
So
on
that's
this,
so you're talking about a 4.5 foot. You're going from a 6 to 4.5 on that piece. That's 11
Right.
feet wide, right? 11.3, is that it?
yes. That dimension is 11'3".
So you're talking about that, for that sliver of 11.3. And you said it's what, 1.5? Okay. Am I right, Brian? Is that that's the area there, right?
Well, yeah, it's 1 foot 6 inch of the new addition
Once it's by 11,
has a combined yard setback of the 6 foot on one side and the 4 foot on the other side. So it's you know, it's 10 feet instead of 14 feet, which is, you know, the required. We just need to know what it is, you know.
No, you,
well, you want, we could do this. We can just
We need a
On this-
variance.
close it just and get the exact dimensions sent to us on that particular sliver.
That's
I-
fine.
that seems right.
Yeah. And then what about the other one? The other variance is for the area above, correct?
It's the area above the garage. So if it's, so it would be, the combined yard is 14 feet, I think. Is it, what is the combined side yard requirement? Is it 14 feet?
Yes,
So we've got there 4.5, 8.5 feet. So that's 5.5 feet. Need a variance for 5.5 feet there.
And what's the length of that variance? That's 5.5.
Well, we need a variance for both both for 2 feet for the side yard setback and 5.5 for the combined yard setback.
Okay. Rob, are you clear on that?
Can I just ask the applicant, because Dennis had said something. The dimensions of the original garage, are they now greater?
no,
Is that garage space going to be deeper than it was?
let's see, I think you can see this best on this drawing. This is the garage now.
Yeah,
This is what was the back wall, and originally, in fact, you see these piers? This
Yeah.
was enclosed. This was an enclosed storage area behind the garage. And this was the back wall of the garage and the interior wall of the storage area. So this is the same wall of the back of the garage. This
Yeah.
was the side wall of the garage. This was the pier. This was the side wall. This was the footing underneath this. And this was the front. This line here was the front of that garage. So we're not coming out any further than that.
okay,
This is the same line. And we're not going back any further than that in the back of this, because this is the same line. The only
okay,
thing is this area, we just raised up with the rest of the house.
okay.
So now if we go back to the first floor plan, that storage area is now here. And this is the area above the garage. This is the wall that's above that foundation wall of the garage. And this is above the other wall of the garage.
So the storage area is still there, but now you've incorporated it in the house, or didn't you say it's been demolished?
That's exactly correct. It's still there, it's elevated, and it's incorporated into
Okay.
this area.
So it's the same roof line of the garage is what you're saying.
Right. The only thing I did differently was this roof, instead of just having it all flat, I made it,
Right, I saw you pitch the front.
pitched it just to balance out the front of this house a little bit. There it's from the back. Here you see it from the front. So that here, was the flat roof above the garage, and I just added this over this to balance it out with this.
Okay.
Maybe it could look a little bit better.
Well, we have the dimensions above the garage. That's going to be above the garage. That's that could be limited to the other, adding to the garage. All right. Any
We
more?
don't actually
any
have
member-
the, I mean, maybe we do on one of the other plans, but, oh yeah, we do. Okay, I see it on one of the plans. Okay. Because the site
Greta,
plan didn't have
Brian.
the dimensions, so.
Anyone else have any questions? Okay. So we have the dimension of the one, and the other one is simply above the existing garage, right? All right. Is there anyone else here who has any questions? Anyone here wants to speak on this? Any board member have any questions on this? You comfortable, everybody? You want to close on this or not? And I think in terms of knowing the area that would be impacted, we now know that pretty clearly in terms of what requires the variance. I think at least, I mean, it's the two sides. It's the above the garage and it's the sliver area.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
So I mean, the garage is easy and the other one I think is dimensionally easy to deal with. And we can reference, if the board was inclined to approve this, then it could reference it to the plan.
Yeah,
So it accomplishes that without, yeah. Okay. We have no further questions.
Very much.
I said, if we have no further questions and the applicant has nothing further to add, is there a motion on this to close or not?
I'll move to close.
For a second.
I'll second.
Okay, Robin? On closure?
Yes.
Okay, Greta,
Yes.
Brian?
Yes,
Okay, and I'll move to close as well. Okay. Do you want, do you want to? I mean, we could ask just for the dimensions to be added if somebody wants it on the sliver, but I think we have it pretty clearly, right?
I think we should get the dimensions just to,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, he could just send it to us. We don't need it.
right.
Right.
We've got the 1.6 feet.
Oh, do we have the 1.6 feet?
Yeah, it's on there. It's on the
Oh.
plan, but what we.
Oh,
what
I don't think we don't have the length.
Right. Length or
What-
width or whatever you want.
That's the 11.3, isn't it?
Isn't the 11.3 the length that you're looking for?
Yeah, isn't that the length, the 11.3?
No,
No?
no, it's the other way. It's from. It's from the 6-foot setback from that wall to
The existing- to the
where the
current.
house, but where that like storage area was. That, you know,
You're
So you
saying you
got-
want this point to this point?
no. Take that, take your cursor and go up to the 1.6.
Okay,
Okay, so go right on the tip of that. No, where it says 1.6, there's a little arrow just to your right.
yeah.
Okay,
This
so,
arrow- this
yeah,
arrow
there,
would-
that was it. That was it. Right there, from there to straight down to that wall.
Which wall? This
There,
one?
there. No, keep coming. There. Go up a little bit.
Actually, it would be any place that's
Right
10
there.
feet from, any place that's 8 feet from that side, lot line is the answer.
And that's here.
No.
You said 8, see 8 feet. 8
But
foot
no.
setback?
I'm sorry. I misstated it. Any place that's 6 plus.
What Robin's trying to
but
say
yes,
is
it's
any
there,
area
but if
that's
you
4
look-
feet.
Okay, you see where now move your dot to the left. Stop at the corner there. Now, if you go straight up, all the way, keep going straight, don't follow any lines, just go straight up.
Okay, there.
Now stop. Now you see that piece there, that 1.6 what did you say, Brian, 3
6.
feet or 1.3 feet, which is
1.6, yeah.
1.6 from the existing wall to your left to that point for the length that you are actually, you have to, you are, since we have 6 feet on that side, it would have to be 14, that's 8 feet. So it would be actually from, actually, I think we might not have a problem.
What?
Oh, yes, because, yes, we do, for the dimension, for the, I know how, why we're having, it's 1.6 feet times the length that we're non-conforming is go down. I was wrong. It's not there. It's not measured there. Go down now, follow that straight line. Now stop when you hit that. The distance from that to the building, to the end of the building, keep going down. That distance is where we have the non-complying combined side yard setback, just that distance.
Why don't we have them put those dimensions in?
That's the only distance we need to know, because once it hits 8 feet, you've got 8 feet on this side and 6 feet on the other side, and that makes the combined yard. So it's only that little bit there.
Well, now, Robin, I have to disagree a
You
little
think
bit.
that's wrong? Okay,
No, I just want to say, see now where he's got the cursor right now,
yeah,
that's pre-existing.
right.
What's not pre-existing
Is the new.
is the new, the 1.6
Right.
feet.
Exactly,
Right.
but he's putting it into the 1.6 feet is now being built here. Now, if this wasn't pre-existing and this was already 8 feet, it wouldn't be an issue. So the only place it's an issue is for that amount, not necessarily for here, but for that number of that number of linear feet.
Okay, all right.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, okay.
This per se, this area, it is this number of linear feet over here somewhere.
So let me see if this works. This line here, where the 8-foot setback would be, you're saying is that 8-foot setback plus the 6-foot setback over here, that's the 14 feet.
Correct.
So this line goes all the way across. And there's a dimension here. You're saying it's dimension from here.
No, we're not. We're saying that, okay, I'm going to give things a numbers. I'm going to make up numbers. The existing, the distance that you just showed from this corner where you had the dot to the edge of the building, we'll call that, and that's some number of feet, which is probably 4 feet, because this was a 4-yard set. Oh, we know the answer. It's 4 feet. This was a 4-yard setback from the rest of the house to the side lot line, and this is 8 feet. So we know that's 4 feet. So
Right.
it's 4 feet times 1.6 feet. So so we don't need any dimension. We have it.
We're good.
Okay. All right, there's a motion on the table for closure. And I don't think we voted on it. Brian?
Fine.
Greta?
Yes.
Robin?
Yes.
Okay, the matter is closed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we have 2 closed applications, and okay, let's go 1260 Flagler Drive. Okay. We've gotten that April 21st letter with dimensions and some points on it. This seems to have, the only concerns that were expressed were what, from a neighbor in terms of by going higher up, you're going to be affecting their line of sight or something from one of their windows, correct?
Well, I think it's really a question of what they're doing is they are building the building differently. They're building a completely different design of the house so that the amount of bulk in the side yards, which is what I think it was, are not really you know, what they're doing mostly is just designing it differently. And so that it's really about the design. And the question is design and because so what they're doing is they're increasing to some degree the amount of mass in that or shape. So there's more, you know, if you look at it as a,
Right.
like, you know, your basic geometry before, let's say you had an area of the side wall of X feet, and now we have more than X feet
Right.
in the side wall. And it's shaped differently also. It's
Right.
not just, and so it's a question of whether, is it just the floor area number that we look at, or is this relevant too? And the neighbors are complaining about the way the design has an impact on them.
Well, I guess some of the neighbors are, what I've heard from one of the neighbors is that it would impact one of their windows of view.
They're actually complaining about more. That was the very detail. What they're saying is the whole thing, it blocks light and air, it's bigger, it's more.
Well, they were also putting in privacy concerns.
Right.
There was a whole issue of the applicant had privacy walls. There wasn't any, weren't able to pin down. The applicant had said that they were asked to put in privacy walls, and then nobody said that they asked them to put in privacy walls. So in the last rendering, they took out the privacy wall.
Amount, right, right.
You know, one of my problems with this is not that the fact that the applicant shouldn't have the right or isn't necessarily doing the right thing by improving a unimproved house for 60 years. You know, I think that really would add value to them and probably property values in the neighborhood. But my problem is there hasn't been one meeting where anybody has agreed on the amount of bulk and, you know, the numbers, which is what we're supposed to give a variance for. And I have a real problem with that because we're trying to make a determination, one of our determinations specifically on significance. Nobody seems to agree. The applicant comes out with one set of numbers and the neighbors come out with another set. And then I think, Dave, you asked them for another comparison based on bulk of the entire structure.
Right.
You know, I think we really have to try to pin down the size of the bulk being added to the non-conforming setback area, because we have to determine what variance, you know, we're being asked to give.
Well, the variance itself is just the side yard variance for that side. It's not a relatively large variance, is it?
Well, basically, we've been going back and forth to the applicant and the neighbors have been going back and forth on the amount of bulk being added to the
But
setback.
if you were doing it as of right, okay, for the moment, just, they say, you know, the first floor is a prior non-conformer to on the side yard. Let's assume instead of going straight, we go inside. Now, it's not, my recollection is, I'm trying to find the plan I was referring to. It's not a large on the side yard, is it? That it's going up. I mean, I sort of feel like you have a non-conforming first floor here. Base, I don't see, I mean, the idea of depriving someone of the right of then increasing it.
Okay, according to what I think the applicant is trying to do,
Yeah,
the most maybe it's the most cost effective way. I don't know. You know, the upstairs of this house, the second floor, has a lot of dormers and a lot of unusable space. So they don't want to change the foundation or necessarily the walls on the first floor, but they do want to go straight up from those walls,
correct.
you know, and square it off so that they actually get headroom and usable space along the same walls as the foundation. which adds bulk in the setback.
Okay, but on the setback, if you, on the one side, it's very little bulk, isn't it? It's a very minimal setback on the one side, if my memory serves me, isn't it?
On the one
Again, it
side,
depends, I think, on whether you're looking at it from the mere square footage or you're looking at it by the wall, sort of the wall area. Wasn't that the?
Yeah, but I'm saying even if you were to say, okay, if we were to come in a couple of feet on the one side, then they could go up.
Yeah, it's not very, there's not much of a non-conforming side yard. There's not a lot of it in the side yard because the side yard variance, I think, is pretty small.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And I'm saying, and so if it's within that, if it's not there, that's like saying, part of it is I would prefer someone next to me not to put that on the floor there possibly, or not to do that. But okay, that's my preference. So I have a choice. I buy their property or I don't buy it or something. I'm not sure I see, in looking at this thing, a significant variance. On one side, there's an empty parcel, correct? And on the other side, where there is a property, and they're talking about a possible blockage from a bedroom window, well, you're talking about, what's it now, 29 feet there? And it's a very small setback variance on the one side, if my memory shows, right? Yeah.
on the one side,
Yeah, that's the side that has the house next to it.
well, yeah, currently, and now just to quote the neighbor on the other side, although he doesn't have a house on the property, it is a separate lot. He is claiming that that adds significant bulk and it's going to devalue that property. That was just one of the, that was one of the arguments that was brought up.
Well, I haven't heard any, I think it's, my view on the valuation is it's speculative. One could argue effectively that it's going to increase the value because you've got this beautiful new improved house as opposed to an unimproved old house next to you. And it's speculative as to they're not planning to do anything. So I don't know. I think I have a more difficult time with that.
I agree it's speculative.
And I think that the other side is very, very minimal. So I think that my view is that the one side is very minimal. And the other side is, I guess on the one side, I don't see it, the concern. I can see someone not wanting it, that's fine, but that doesn't control. You're talking about if they were to go and build within their side yard, right? Within the, as of right above, it would look uglier and it would probably be like, what is it? A couple of feet at the most on the one side there, right?
Well, I don't, listen, I don't know that we can say that it's going to look uglier, because I honestly, my biggest issue with the application isn't the fact that, they want to improve their house. I really think that,
Right.
That's a positive thing. It's the fact that there were no other plans, no other alternatives provided. One of the arguments from one of the other neighbors was the fact that there are other houses in the neighborhood where the bulk of the second floor is in the center of the house. It's not all the way on the sides. And they did show that in some of the pictures. So I can't necessarily say what another rendering would be, what a different plan would look like. They could come up with a completely different plan. So
If you,
they do have, they do have, as of right, probably plenty of space to build a usable second floor. So the question is, if we're going to provide a minimum variance, shouldn't they have shown some kind of hardship as to, well, it would cost more to do it in a different way?
They did say, I will say, they did say at one point that to have done an alternative would have increased the impervious surface and the visual impact, but I don't know the visual impact on who. And impervious surface, you're discussing, Brian, now putting it in the middle, and that would not have increased the impervious surface.
No.
So they
but
did
if
not,
you
so that was what, when we did ask the question about alternatives, and that was what they had said, but not, but they didn't discuss sort of alternative design within this kind of,
Right,
area.
they could put significant mass as of right
Right.
with a different plan.
But
But we
it-
haven't been given a different plan.
Right, but Brian, if they did that, just as you just suggested or noted, you wouldn't have the neighbor on the one house next door would have the identical issue.
That's their problem.
Okay, so, but I don't see the problem. All they want to do is line so that the first and second floor line on the exterior evenly, right?
Listen, I can't, I can't get in the minds of neighbors. I know that the neighbor that owns the vacant side yard.
Yeah.
The actual house where that neighbor lives is so far away that if they were to build a structure as of right, which they have the height and they have the center of the house, I really think from their perspective of their house, they wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
well, they could certainly design it, because if they have a pre-existing condition a certain way, they could design the house in a way that would deal with whatever, if one house on one side creates an issue, you design a house to deal with that issue.
But if I'm just go back for a moment on the other house where there's a house next to them,
Yeah,
on that variance, it's a minimal variance, a de minimis variance, isn't it?
I think at this point, if they remove the privacy screens
Right.
Yeah, it was.
and such, I think that the variance they're asking for technically under, the square footage is probably quite small.
If I have the numbers right, I think it might be 74 square feet.
Yeah.
I think,
74
again, I'm not
square
100%. It's
That's what they're showing here. Yeah, it's just a little strip on the right side.
right. The
And
question.
and my point is that I think and if they were to go and build as of right, and that's the neighbor that says, oh, my view. Well, okay, but then, so now you're gonna make them do a jog and come up, right? It's gonna be, I mean, I guess I can understand, it's gonna be the same impact. That's just when your neighbor does things. I mean, I have neighbors that have elected to do things, and I mean, given my great grandfather had invested properly, I might have bought their properties next door, but I don't. So, I mean, that's life. That's why we call it a community. I have a problem with that, the opposition from that side, because it's such a de minimis item there in terms of so if they were to go and say, okay, we'll go in that 2 feet or whatever it is, great. You're gonna just, so now the neighbor gets to see a house with a jog in it. I don't follow the advantage that I just find that's the purpose of an area variance. So I don't have a problem with that one side. And on the other side,
74 square feet.
yeah, that's the 74 square feet.
Yeah.
And on the other side, I mean, I don't know what the board, the other side is sort of like, look, you've got an empty lot next to you. And it's been empty and there's no plans. I don't know. I don't see, from a standpoint of it's gonna build it up. It's now there, it's already in the same area. It is a non-conforming. And they just want to build on top of it there. So I don't see, I don't have a problem with that. I don't see that. I understand, they made a lot of, they pointed out a lot of things in this, but I think they've taken out some of their privacy things. They've taken those out. And so from my standpoint, I don't see a problem on the one side by the house because it's so de minimis. And I think to do it as of right would not be as nice. Certainly, if I lived next door, I would say, you know what, come over another foot up there because Otherwise, it's gonna look really weird. And on the other side, you have an empty lot and no indication of any present contemplation of doing anything and no deprivation to them. And certainly it's a side yard and I don't think it's gonna make a difference to somebody ultimately. If in the future, one day someone builds there and they go, oh, there's a house with a second floor next to us above where the first floor has existed. So I think, you know, I think it's I think certainly neighbors would prefer this not take place, and that's fine. People don't generally come out to say that's wonderful. That's just the nature of it. So, I mean, that's my personal views. On the one side, I don't see it.
Well, it says,
Really,
you know,
truly, I have to tell you, if it were me, I think if I had a neighbor and we had a real issue, I'd say, you know, I'm gonna go in that 1.5 feet. I'll build up. And then you can look at that and go, what did they do there? That's right. Because I won't see it from the inside. You'll see it when you look at the outside of my house. I don't quite get that, but okay, listen, it'll block a window, one of their 10 windows there. Yeah, maybe it will. But that's what happens when people build. Everything does. That's why we're here. But so I have no problem with the one side, and with the other side, I think it's speculative. Probably, I think,
well, the other side certainly, like I said, I don't think that it impacts anybody's privacy. I don't think that it's really going to make any difference in terms of a view because the house is far away. And unfortunately, yeah, and that lot is undeveloped, so it is speculative.
Plus, I think it's speculative to suggest, and I really take issue with them on this, that it would impact the value of the lot. I think, quite frankly, most people who would buy a house or buy a property there, and these are valuable and expensive properties, and I always had my choice of living next to a house like that, the way it is now, unimproved, or a beautiful new.
Well,
house.
that's what I was saying. Certainly,
I think it's
the
Different
house.
perspective, if I were buying the house next door, I would like this smaller house because to me, this is a more, you know, and while they're not proposing a McMansion, it is a big, new, modern, contemporary house that they're proposing. I like this style of this house as a personal view, so I don't think
you
that's
won't buy.
relevant. So I don't think that's relevant is my point. The
Okay,
fact
I'm not arguing with you. I don't think, but I think it's speculative to suggest whether it'll go up or down in value. I mean, it's really out there. It's if, as, and when. Yeah.
So on the right side, I do think it is so small that it's very hard to say.
I agree.
Because they could build so much of what they're doing, they could build anyway, just a little bit further set back, and I don't see that it's an issue. On the left side, I will say that the fact that the lot is vacant next door, remember, the issue isn't the zoning, the variance requirement isn't, what is the impact on the neighbor? It's what is the impact on the sort of the community, the neighborhood. So the question is, does this big new wall and the setback, is there an impact sort of bigger than just the fact that there's no house there? I mean, that's my point. Just because there's no house there, I don't think we say, well, there's no house there, so they can do it. I'm not saying it is a bigger, but I just think when we're looking at it, that's sort of the question, not so specifically, well, there is no house there, so it's not an issue. I think it's kind of like, you know, at some point there may be, I can't say there will be, but at some point there may be a house there. There may never be a house there, who knows? And, you know, if we think that there would be an impact for any house, then that's one thing. And if we don't think there would be an impact, then it's something else. And it's not per se because there is no house there, we don't have to worry about it. I think if, for example, they were doing something and it was really going to have an impact on any house that was built next door, that would be relevant even if there is no house there. I don't know that it is going to have an impact on any house next door, but I'm saying we can't just say because it's a vacant lot, we don't have to worry about it.
So let's say that there is a house on that lot. Okay, somebody does own the lot, so let's say there's an existing house. Does adding this bulk, is it significant?
Right, that's the question. I agree, Brian. I'm not arguing with that. I just
and then you know, then you do the test whether or not the significance is you know, acceptable or not.
Yeah, and it would be, the significance has to be on the side that affects it, on that side. Yeah, I hear you. What's the bulk difference? You got
I
that?
have 601 square feet, but I don't know which plan this is. You know, so we had so many different drawings.
Right.
Well, they gave us this, you got their April 21st letter?
Yeah, but I don't know. I honestly, I can't figure out where I put it.
Yeah, I
Eric,
have their
yeah.
April
I
21st.
think I mixed it
That
up.
chart's a little complicated to read, huh?
I think I mixed it up with something else. I don't have it in front of me. Let me go look on the agenda and see if I can get it.
Well, look, the existing structure, if you want me to read it, the total bulk volume, because this is what you asked for, Dave.
Yeah.
Total bulk volume is a little over 61,000 cubic feet. And the pre-existing non-conforming is 12,000 cubic feet. So the percentage of the non-conforming bulk which exists, according to their calculation, is 20% of the structure. The proposed structure is going to be 74 or close to 75,000 cubic feet.
I don't
And
think that's
What are you
relevant.
reading?
The
What are you
percentage
reading?
of the percentage of the
Yeah.
total house that's in the non-conforming, I don't think is relevant. It's if they had, if
Oh.
yeah, I don't see why that would be relevant. I don't think that it's the, Brian, you said right now, the proposal would have how many thousand square cubic feet, not cubic, but how many thousand cubic feet in the
Are in the
non-complying area?
non-conforming. Yeah, that's the issue, the non-conforming.
16, okay. And that's what I was getting at, because I didn't like the way these calculations were done. It's going to be 15,913 cubic feet in the non-conforming area.
Now,
That's an increase from 12,185.
So that's a big increase. That is a
So-
big increase.
well, they're
Yeah.
6 feet, so what's that? That's,
That's almost
That's not-
4,000 cubic feet.
yeah,
and the
but that's not
12,000
square
to the
footage,
30
that's not square footage on the ground.
No, it's cubic feet of volume. It's volume. Remember, that's what we're considering here. This is a volume increase. So they're putting 4,000 more cubic feet of volume in the non-conforming area. 4,000 cubic feet as a percentage of what's there now is 40% or something.
Well, 4,000 out of 12,000, that's going to be a third. It's going to be 33% increase.
At the bottom of the memo that Brian was reading from, there's a calculation of 30.6%.
Okay, so that's a big
There you
increase
go.
if we look at it that way.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to look at it, but that is the actual bulk
That's
being
the bulk
added.
volume. Yeah, but cubic is always a complicated thing. It's a 1 by 1 by 1 by 1, right?
Yeah. Height by length by height, length by width by height.
Right.
But that's what we are, I mean, that's what we, as Dave, you said in the last application, it's the volume that's being added to the non-conforming area. And they're adding 30% more volume in the non-conforming area. That's what they're adding.
Right. And that's
30% of more cubic, yeah, but square footage wise, what is it? Well,
But we're not interested, the square footage is 601 square feet.
Greta, you
600
have any comments on this?
That's what, I mean, that's what I have from their March 7th, 22 plan. They had just the square footage.
Chair, can I just give some input?
I don't know.
Dave,
I don't know. Who's this, Dan?
this is Dennis,
I don't know, because if we have a council, and we have a closed hearing, technically it's an appeal from you, so I don't know. And if the applicant wants to speak, do we let the applicant speak? Board have any comment on that or question?
I don't think, if the hearing is closed, I don't think we let anyone speak. except
Yeah,
board
that's,
members.
I would concur. I think not.
You know, my sense is I agree with a lot of what Dave had to say. And the way I look at it is there's a lot of unhappiness by the neighbors, and they don't like the change in the house and the expansion of the volume, and they're using the necessary need for some area variances, which are on the minor side, to be able to prevent the owner from doing improvements in the home,
Yeah.
which normally would be just as of right. You know, they might, as Dave said, you know, they don't like it, you know, but you know, that's part of life, that, you know, neighbors make improvements in their home and you really don't like it. So it seems more that they're just using these really insubstantial need for variances because it's a pre-existing nonconformity in some areas to prevent the owner from doing what it normally would do as of right.
Is
So-
601 square feet minor?
Well, you've already got the first floor there, right?
But we're looking at how much they're adding. They're adding 601 square feet on the left side.
Yeah.
Is that minor? That's all I'm saying. That's all I said.
I think it's in the overall scheme of things where you've got a non-conforming house and it's part of a new upgrade and change. Yeah, I don't think it's major at all for that kind of a house. Particularly, it's not in the front and it's not in the you know.
Well, it's on the side, so it's visible from the front. I'm not sure why you're saying it's not in the front. It's visible from the front, right? You see it. It's not like you don't see this. I don't know that it's big. I'm not even saying it is. I'm just saying, let's look at, I'm looking at the total square footage of the house. The house is oh, that's the coverage. I'm looking for the floor area in the house. Do we have the floor area in the house? The pre-existing
the only opposition to that side, well, my recollection anyway, is the main opposition to the left side, right? North side, I guess that is.
I don't know.
Was the house,
Left side.
it was the parcel 2 houses down, which was, we've discussed that already. I don't see that. I don't. It's, and the other people, the other side, which had more of an objective concern, is sort of like, yeah, but it's like a foot or two there. I mean.
Okay, Robin, I think the answer to your question is,
That's my question is.
I
do
think
we
they were decreasing square footage
decreasing square footage in the building.
in the
But are they-
building, because although they're adding, they're kind of fleshing out the dormer area, they're getting rid of some structure that used to be over the garage, if I remember correctly. So I don't think that they were adding a lot of square footage. I
It just
think
has 601 square feet is what I have in their plan.
well, no, the 601 square feet is what is new in the non-conforming area,
Right.
but they're getting rid of some square footage that used to be over the garage. So the overall structure, I don't believe is adding a lot of square footage. It's just that the square footage, a lot of it is in, is in this non-conforming setback. And actually, as I look at this plan,
Maybe.
if we could talk about an alternative as of right. If they don't build in that area, now I can see why they're saying that they would create more impervious surface. Because the house is kind of an L shape.
Right.
So if they tried to build over the middle,
Right.
they'll be building over uncovered ground right
Well,
now.
not necessarily. They could just go literally taller in the middle.
But they don't have to. They could also.
No, Robin, if you look at the shape of the house,
I understand that. I'm not saying the middle of the lot. They have an existing L-shaped house. Therefore, if they increase the height, I'm not suggesting they do this, but just to answer your question, Brian, if they increase the height that was within the setback, they just added a third of floor or portion of a half floor, whatever it is, in the portion of the building that's not within the setback area, but they could put it right above their existing structure. That
They
wouldn't
already-
increase- They don't,
They are in this plan.
yes, but they could,
In order to make up the area that they want to have in the setback, that would be over, that would not be over existing foundation. That would be new foundation and it would
I don't
create
see why
more
it would have to
impervious.
be. I don't see why it would have to be. If you look, think of it as just in your mind, turn the house to an elevation or right, so look at it from the side, from looking at it straight from the house. There is a house there. If they took the part of the house that's parallel to the street and they built that piece up higher in the middle of that piece, that wouldn't require increasing the impervious area. They could just go up there. I don't know
I
what
think-
else it would do. It might be difficult in other ways. I'm not suggesting that it's something
But
they
I-
could do, but it wouldn't necessarily increase the impervious surface.
I think they are going up there.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say to you. I think that they are going up there unless that's already existing.
Well,
Is
but
it
they're
that's-
adding height, but I'm not sure they're adding a floor, which means there might be floor they could add. They could put a half a floor. Yeah, it's still only going to be 2 floors. They could, for example, put more
I
floor.
think- So
They
what,
could-
a third floor? They don't have room,
Why
the
not?
height.
They could put half a story up there, a third floor, half of it's not a full floor, but they could put half of right, 2.5 stories means half of the third floor could exist. They could do that for a certain number of feet.
All right.
Yeah, but it would only be empty space. It wouldn't be usable.
Why not? You put a floor right up, you put a third floor for a piece of the house that's 2.5 stories. It's not that they have a half a floor, it's that the size of the floor is only a half of the total floor that's permitted. So if they put a portion, so this house has a dimension, do I have dimensions on this? I'm not on what I'm looking at right now. But if they, again, I'm not saying this would work in other ways. I don't have a clue if it would. But they could, where they have that circular staircase, if that circular staircase went up another floor, it could go up another floor, and they could have a portion of a third floor above that.
Well, do they need a variance for a third floor?
Again, no, because they're allowed 2.5 floors, and a half floor isn't you build 4 feet high. It means instead of having a full floor, you have half of a floor. And they would have half of a floor. It's not going to take the full distance. To put that floor area on top of the house wouldn't be the full third floor. It would be a third floor and a portion of the house. I'm not suggesting that would be easy to do or would work. I'm just saying
Well, you're coming back to one of the things that I said was the fact that they really didn't give us any alternative plans. To show why it would be a hardship to do anything else as of right.
Well, now,
See, one thing I just want to, I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt you. Go ahead.
no, go ahead. I'm trying to.
I have one issue that probably weighs in my head on this. Because I don't have a problem with this, but I think that when you have nothing in an area and you want to go and build in the area and create, and you need a variance, that's one thing. I think that while we've always taken the position, and I concur with it, and I've always taken that when you're going to add a floor, although you're already there, but once you're in that area, it's not the same as a pristine area that hasn't been developed. You're now adding a floor, which is much more reasonable to contemplate will happen one day. So I don't view this as starting from nothing. I view this as you've got a first floor there. And I don't view that quite the same. At least that's my view on things, because it's already built on and it's not adding impervious area. So, I mean,
Well-
anyway, I think we're gonna,
I'm looking
Yeah,
at their
well-
chart now on their square footage, and I think whether it was Brian or Dave, whichever you said, they showed that the second floor plan square footage on the left side is going down. Okay? But the sidewall square footage, they're putting, of course, a much larger sidewall. Right? The wall is much larger, but the square footage is not. And the cubic feet is much larger, and I'm a little, I don't understand, if the square footage isn't bigger, how can they have more cubic feet there? That doesn't seem to make sense unless I'm missing something.
Well, unless it's the height, because inside, if you have
Oh,
no
right,
floor,
if they're really going high.
you
it
have
looks like-
no, well, no, but if you don't have a floor, if you have a high ceiling or something.
Yeah, they have, it looks like. they have
Cubic
very
cubic
high-
feet and cubic yards always concern me because
Well,
It's
Dave,
You're
I
right.
just I want to respond to your comment about there being nothing. As opposed to being something. And again, I'm just trying to give the comments made by people their due. Currently, on the left side of the house, it looks like it's 16 feet high. Okay, if I'm reading this correctly, it's very, very small. It's 16 feet high. And it's doubling. It's going to 32 feet high.
Right, that's
Because they're putting up a very large structure on that side of the house. So you are now creating, you are doubling that wall. You are doubling the amount of the nonconformity almost in that area. They are getting rid of some space in front of the garage. And really, that's the concern. The concern is that, well, yeah, it was only on the first floor and it wasn't very high, and now you're building something twice as high. And I think that's relevant, but I also think that we need to weigh the fact that if we were to shift this over and have that kind of front to back type of structure, we're now going to go over impervious surface.
Right.
Not necessarily, I don't see that.
Oh, hold it. I said
They
front to
have the
back,
right-
Robin. And now if we do it on the other side, what Robin is saying, they are going up quite a bit, but we'd add another half story up there. I don't know how that works, like in terms of
I don't know either. It's,
usable space or whether or not that's gonna give them the most benefit. I can also say that, on the side of the applicant, I think if you're building up on the current foundation, again, structurally, it's probably a cost savings as opposed to building a new foundation as well.
Particularly when you're by the water.
Well, yeah, particularly when you're by the water, and actually, if you are laying new foundation, then we have to look at the ground disturbance and such. So I can understand that, what they have appealed for, was a plan where, as built, they wouldn't be changing the foundation, they wouldn't be changing the pervious surface and all of that. And I think we really have to weigh that against the fact that you're going up twice as high. You're adding significant bulk, in my opinion, in the current setback area. And the question is whether or not the benefits outweigh.
Now, the only opponent on that was, but the people who would be looking at that in the front of the house, there's no opposition on that, is there, effectively?
well, you don't really see the bulk, you see the bulk more from the side because of the way they're
Yeah.
designing the house.
Gotcha. Okay.
But Brian, the one thing that,
Yeah.
sorry, now I forgot what, sorry, I lost my.
All right, that was a good point, I'm sure. We'll give you
Or
credit.
not.
Robin, you're right.
Robin,
I
I
agree.
agree. Better myself.
Okay, what was
All
I?
right. Well, I
Oh,
think,
I know what I was gonna say. We don't really know about the foundation because they're putting a different wall up there that's going to be a bigger wall. We don't know whether they have to do anything to strengthen the foundation because it's a larger wall.
They said they're not changing the foundation.
They said that, I couldn't remember, I didn't remember, so.
They said because there's a whole thing about land disturbance and that they're not disturbing it. I mean, that's, when you get to the fine tuning of the engineering, we have to go based upon what
Right, what
they're
they said,
telling
yeah.
us.
Yeah, I just didn't remember. I
Yeah.
didn't remember them saying that. That's why I made the point I did. But they said it then.
Yeah, and you do have that's 144 feet. Yeah.
See, that's what I'm
Look,
saying.
I'm
it's a
looking at
huge-
the width of the lot next door. Yeah. I mean, and to be fair, that one side is closer to another lot, but that's a very wide lot. Actually, that lot next door, I believe, is wider.
is
The
it-
one on the left is a wider lot. It's 144 feet wide.
Well, this is a wide lot. Was this wide about this one? Do we have the?
I don't
dimensions?
think it's, I don't know.
I'm trying to.
We're not
find-
changing it. It's not, yeah. But I mean, look, we generally don't have people give us alternatives or things like this on an area variance.
Well, we have, but usually when we have, they've given us more. Well, people have told us, well, we looked at putting it here and we
Right.
looked at putting it there. And I don't recall, other than just broadly saying it would increase impervious surface. They didn't really say, well, we looked at putting it in this place, or we looked at doing this. But again, that would clearly, if you're going to put a third floor, I will say that would obviously add more costs than just, I'm pretty sure. just
Probably you
adding
have to
the-
take down, you might have to remove the foundation on this end here. Or you've got to create a separate,
Well, you just may
upstairs.
have to put an additional support. That's all you would need to do, is put additional support.
if you kept it, but it may look very, I don't know what it would look like. Okay, well, I think as much as this is a wonderful evening, but I think we ought to decide, maybe one way or another, let's maybe vote on this, or I mean, if there's any more deliberations, by all means.
No, I'm looking at the lot. The lot next door, Dave, is not,
Hold on.
it's not a wide lot. As I can see, it's 104 feet, not 144. And all the other lots are wider. This
No,
lot
no,
is
no. Wait a second,
104.
which one are you looking at? I'm
The
looking at,
lot to their left,
yeah, so what's that, 100 and,
4 feet wide.
no, what was it?
Yeah,
That's a 0?
yeah, it's a 0. Well, even if you just don't know that, you can see visually, their lot is 107 feet wide and the one next door is narrower.
Hold on.
So
Well, I
it may be wide enough, but it's not a wide.
actually, it's
No, it's not a wide lot. It's,
Yeah.
not, it's about the same.
yeah.
Well, that's nice. You can play ball in there. Okay. Look, I don't, people have put a lot into, I don't know. I think,
I certainly have no
Yeah.
problem with the right side. I've no problem with the right side. It's small and it's not notwithstanding that it's going to be more imposing, if you will, the wall. But it's such a small area.
Well, I mean, could we just go through the test? I mean, we should consider if it's granted, is it a benefit to the applicant? I think it's absolutely a significant benefit to the applicant. Weighed against detriment to health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood. There's been no proof that it is a detriment to health, safety, or welfare of the neighborhood or community. So, I don't think we have I don't necessarily have a problem with that first prong of the test, and I don't think that that putting money into renovating this house is going to decrease the property values of anybody else. Well, I mean,
I don't think it will.
generally speaking, I guess we do have to consider the undeveloped lot.
Well, I don't think you have to consider it as a developed lot. I don't think it would change the value of it and hurt it. But, it is the way it is now, not, if it was something else, how would it impact?
But it does say neighborhood or community, and I don't think that it negatively affects the neighborhood or the community.
No, I don't think so.
But
Um,
we never look at the way, we never say, gee, what is the impact on the entire community? We have generally looked at the impact on the immediate neighbors.
Right.
Because that's the part of the neighborhood most affected. I mean, even the other one the other one that we heard today was what's the impact to the neighbor to the left and the neighbor to the right? We didn't say what's the impact to the houses down the block. We're really looking at the immediate. So I think.
okay, well, the first
Let's-
test is health, safety, and welfare. I don't see a problem
Yeah, no.
personally. The second test is whether or not there's an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood.
No, I don't see that.
I'm not the BAR. I think that, what they're trying to do is, it's a beautiful contemporary home, but I mean, that's just my opinion. It's not,
No,
doesn't have flashing lights. It doesn't have anything which I would see is undesirable, or a detriment to nearby properties by creating. So that's really, I think, where Robin, you've been sticking. And then the next one is, can it be achieved by some method feasible or some other method feasible?
The
other
answer is
than area
yes.
variance?
The answer is yes. But that's true in most cases.
That's true in most
put it
cases.
in. They could achieve this by setting it in slightly. And then they would achieve it. It wouldn't
Yeah.
have the same. So what's the benefit they're trying to get? They're trying to get, I'm not sure 100%, whether the benefit is more square footage or the benefit is a nicer design. It's a little not, you never know what the
So
benefit is, but
they're not.
they do have, as of right, enough property
right.
to create, probably a house that would do what they want.
Yes.
And then we ask, is the variance substantial? I don't think so on the right-hand side,
No.
but on the left-hand side, you are putting an entire second story up in the, in the non-conforming zone. And I think that, I don't know what the number, was 30% increase of the bulk volume. I think it's not insubstantial.
Yeah, it's hard. The question is it really, are we looking at the volume? Is that the appropriate thing to look at? And, depending on how we look at it determines whether it's substantial or not.
Well, I mean,
I also think that you also, I think, have to bear in mind, what are they changing? And they have a house and they want to use the existing footprint.
Yeah.
And I don't see,
no, those are the mitigating factors.
I think those are
100%.
tremendously mitigating. Yeah, that's my view.
Not increasing the actual variance, they're not asking for an expansion.
Right. I agree. Rob, are you here? Did he
Yes,
say-
I am.
Ah, okay. All right.
And it is a balance,
Yeah, I think it's a balance. I think, and I think you're right. And I think we could sit here and we can go any which way because there are different approaches.
Mhm.
And I know, from my standpoint, they have a house, it has a footprint. I think it's logical to say, well, let's use it as opposed to creating a separate building within it, so to speak, or separate from it, going up. I don't see the one side at all is substantial, and the other side, it's substantial, more substantial than the other, obviously. And yet, because it's using the footprint, I think that cuts against it. And there's no one next to it that it offends. And it's not even, I mean, they're gonna have, if they build next door, they're gonna have houses by their sides on both sides. That's what they're gonna have. And they're not gonna eliminate one of them. And so I think that's a reality check. And I don't know. Listen, I think they're improving a house that needs improvement. I think it's probably not perfect in terms of, from a neighbor standpoint, but the one neighbor has nothing there other than an empty lot, and the other neighbor, as of right, they can do anything they want there anyway, so it's, that is de minimis, so I think it's time to, one way or another, and it's fun, by the way, that's, we don't generally get involved with telling people how to redesign on area variances. We don't, we stay away from that. And I think that the impervious, not improving not enhancing the impervious surface is important. And I also think it will be upgrading and helpful to the area. Certainly not going to hurt it. I mean, whether it's your style house or not is not the issue. But it's a costly house that will add value, in my opinion. Because most
I don't think that our job is to consider the value in terms of whether it adds value or not. The only part of value that we should be looking at is whether it's going to decrease value. But it's not our job to consider whether this is going to be more, going to raise the value of the property. That's not relevant. If it doesn't decrease the value, and I don't think it's going to decrease the value of the neighboring house, then value is out of the picture.
Yeah, and my opinion on this is the only detriment that I see anywhere is speculative to the property next door.
agree.
But that doesn't mean it doesn't exist or that it shouldn't be considered.
Right.
And
Right.
therefore, if we're going to weigh balances, I think we have to look at what the applicant is trying to achieve and whether or not, those factors, kind of level the playing field. And I do like the fact that they are staying on top of the existing foundation, that they're not blowing down the whole house and creating something much more massive and creating impervious surface. I also think that it probably is a significant cost savings to the applicant to build within their current footprint.
Right.
And I see those factors as relevant as weighing against the potential effect to value of that property which is undeveloped. Because right now, I don't necessarily think that it would devalue the undeveloped property.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think, I think
I
that's.
don't think so either.
All right,
But I will say also that if we went through with anything, people were pretty adamant, and I think that the privacy screens, like, it would have to be kind of as last pitched, because this, the project changed as the meetings went on. And if people don't want to see the big walls, the big privacy walls,
well, they took them down.
well, that would have to be part of the approval.
Well, no, but they did. I believe they said at the last meeting.
Oh, no, they said that they would.
They
They said that they would.
they actually made a submission based upon that.
It would have to be, it would have to be in there.
Yeah, well, they said so. I mean, and I thought they were very open to that. They said, listen, we thought, they thought they did that to help others, and they said, fine, we have no problem with that. All right, we can have a motion on this one way or another.
What do we, don't we usually not do this until we have a resolution? So I don't think we vote until we have a resolution.
Oh, that's not, I don't know if that's always the case. It's usually
It's
not.
always the case, David.
No, it's really not always the case. And you're happy to go through it, all the history of the past 3 years. And I'll tell you, I'll put money right now, $500, that more often than not, it's not. But I don't care.
Well, listen, guys,
I don't want to argue about it. So
what
then,
they've done, hold it, David, what they've done on my last board was you take a straw poll.
Yeah, that's what we did
I
here.
understand.
And you take a straw poll, and each person puts their opinion. And if you have enough votes to go through, then you start to make a resolution, and then you'll vote on the resolution.
That's what we did. That's what we've
That's
done here
what
for the
we
last
do.
couple of years.
Yes, we've been doing that.
So why don't,
And
so
by the
I
way,
say-
it's fine, but just so we're on the right page, we do that where there are things to discuss in the resolution as opposed to like a special permit thing, but why don't we take a poll and then we can have something drafted and deal with it? Okay, so Greta,
However you want to do it, David, whatever you
no,
want
it's
to
fine.
do.
Let's do it that way. I think that's fine. I just didn't know that there was that much to write on this, but it's fine.
So I vote yes to give the variance.
Okay, so you would vote, okay, so you're in favor of the variance. You would like a resolution prepared on that.
Yes.
Robin, what's your?
I have no problem with the variance on the right side. I haven't figured, I don't know yet how I feel about the variance on the left side, so I would have no problem with, remember, there's two variances here.
Right.
I would have no problem with, yeah, I have no problem with the variance on the right side. I'm not 100% sure how I'd vote on the left side. So there you go.
So the straw poll doesn't, okay, Brian,
So, in terms of a resolution, because I understand what Robin is saying. I would want to see some of the things that we discussed here as mitigating factors to give me the reason to grant the variance on the left-hand side. The right-hand side is fine. The left-hand side, I think that there should be mitigating factors. I think that we've discussed several. I think if the resolution, strongly makes a case, for that, as to why other alternatives would have been more expensive, or they're trying to stay within the footprint, they're trying to keep from disturbing the soil, they're trying, to not add impervious, or, if there's enough of those things, and perhaps could go back through some of the materials as well, that would balance it. That would balance it for me. So
in other words, you're saying, just so I understand you, what you're saying is you would favor the variances if the resolution reflected all the things we've discussed as the mitigation factors.
yeah, that's the way I'm leaning now. Yeah.
All right.
But I would really need to, I would need to see that in the resolution.
Okay. I favor the variance. I would go with the variance. I think that I concur with Brian. I think that putting the mitigation factors in is important, or not, they're really not even mitigation factors. They're balancing factors.
Balancing factor.
Balancing
That's
factor.
really what they are, because we're not mitigating, we're just explaining why.
Right.
I mean, I think that it's unimproved, that it's speculative, that may add value, may decrease. We can't really say. There's nothing in the record to support either way. But
Yeah, and I also believe that they're not necessarily adding square footage, because they're getting rid of some square footage. So
correct. They're not adding.
they're reconfiguring the house on its current foundation.
Right.
So I mean, that should account for something.
Oh, I agree. And I think that not tearing it down and starting from scratch is very important. And they're using an existing first floor and the foundation they're under. I think that's very valuable. And I think
Now, all of these, there's standard language in the resolution as well, that they're all predicated upon whatever other approvals they need,
they
correct?
always are. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's not,
We don't have the right to change other people's
no,
obligations.
that's not our,
Right.
Because there was a lot of questions as to, we should hold our opinion. And I think it's important to say this, that we should hold our opinion until FEMA weighs in, or till the flood committee weighs in, or get a flood plan. And I don't agree with that. That's not our job.
No.
Actually, it's not our job, and actually, there's a lot of authority for the opposite. That other agencies, and you've had planning boards, I'm familiar with some litigation where people have gone there before zoning, and the courts have held after they've approved it. No, you couldn't grant an approval or consider something when they had no right to do it. First, they got a variance. The variance is sort of the one that says legally you now can do it. So now you go and you say, okay, here's what I want to do on what I can do. So,
Right, and by the way, the reason why, at one point I asked what the elevation of the house was. The reason why I asked what the elevation of the house was, because if in fact the house had to be raised, I wanted to see whether or not the roof of the house would still fit within the parameters, or whether or not we'd have to give or whether or not they'd have to come back for another variance. Now, based on that, what they told me, they would not, that even if FEMA made them build this house higher, they would still be able to build the same structure within the limits.
Right.
So I was satisfied by that, even though, that's not what we needed to consider at the time, but,
Okay.
the plan, the same plan would work.
All right. So Rob, can you draft?
Yes, I
You
have my
have any-
marching orders. We'll draft based on this conversation and the application.
Right. I think it's, I think basically, Robin, I think is in our straw poll here, and I just had this, Robbins has more concerns about the one side. Brian wants to make sure that we've covered all of the reasons and the explanations to show why. And I concur with that, I think, and Greta agrees. So
Of course.
why don't you see what you put together for the next, if you could, so we can have this soon.
Will do.
Okay, unless there's a reason, I just assume put Sylvan off. Is that a problem for anybody or not? Or is there a reason not to?
Well, it's just a,
Oh, okay, one do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that late yet. Let's get it done.
it's a,
I have to sign off. We had discussed this a couple weeks ago. I think we were all in agreement about it. The one thing I checked was that the actual additional non-conforming part was, they reported 18.8 square feet, so pretty small. So if, I think we were all unanimous, in agreement that
Right.
there's a problem.
Yep.
So if you could just note that, that's great. Otherwise,
Okay. You want to have something drafted for that for the next meeting then, Rob?
That Charlie sent that around earlier this week. We talked
Yeah,
about
it's-
9:35.
Oh, we have the Sylvan one? Oh,
we've got it.
Oh, I don't remember seeing it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't recall seeing it either. But anyway, I have to sign off. But that was my only thing I wanted to add. I
all right.
don't.
And you're good for the 26th, 31st, 7th,
It
and
should
9th?
be, yeah. Mhm.
Okay, all
So
right.
if
Do
we
you
have
want,
the
do you have a preference to having it a person meeting with this, since there's gonna be a large group there?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, COVID's, I'll agree to what you guys agree to.
Okay, Brian, you have a preference either way on that?
I prefer Zoom.
Okay.
Robin?
I actually think, I think that we've been missing out on not having these meetings in person, so
I
I'll go with
concur
the
with-
mask, but I prefer in person.
Yeah, I'm with, Rob, particularly on an FEIS thing where you got people as opposed to this. It just,
But
Hasn't
I don't
seen-
care.
whatever,
That's
okay. I mean, I think the general sense is they prefer not, right? They'd rather Zoom. I think it's a Zoom. All right.
it. I
Fine.
think on this one, I think it's pretty clear. Those, I haven't looked at the resolution. I guess Greta didn't either. We'll look at the resolution and vote on it next week, as long as we have the draft resolution.
Okay,
Next week, but next meeting.
okay, all right.
That's
Let
all.
me check on if it's all right, and I appreciate if I can just, I think it's Tuesday, I'll know. Because if I'm not around, it's just gonna be 2 members down. So the 26th, 31st, 7th, and 9th. I mean, we'll pick one of those dates and I'll circulate something right away as soon as I know. we
Yeah,
can
I think
cover-
based on what Brian said, there was one date that wasn't as good for him because he was leaving the next day. So,
Brian,
that's
what day are we
okay.
leaving?
That's fine.
oh, you're okay with that?
That's fine.
How about this? What I'll do is I'll circulate it. And then if there's a real problem, we'll know right away. We'll
Okay.
check with that. All right,
Sounds good.
and we'll get the resolution. Do you want to go forward on the resolution? We'll vote the next time on it, on Sylvan.
Yeah, because I
Okay.
haven't read it yet, and rather than sit here and read it as we talk makes no sense.
You can read it out loud, Okay, with that in mind, all right, and I will try to keep the next meeting, all right, hopefully, I don't know if there's many applications for next meeting or not. But this was good, okay. No, and I think I thought, I liked the way it went. I thought that the discussion in Flagler was interesting and worthwhile. Gets us all thinking. So thank you. Everybody have a good week.
You too?
Anyone in favor of adjourning can leave, and if you're not, stay on. Make my day.
I'll second it.
I'm gonna have some dinner now, so.
Yes,
all right.
I vote yes.
All right, vote yes, yes, yes. All in favor of adjourning, please leave the meeting immediately.
All right.
Greta, be
Good night.
well. Okay, bye, Rob, everybody.
Good
Take-
night.
Good night.